they told me if the feds would just back off in Portland, the protests, riots, whatever you want to call them, would go away. Well, sort of. Play the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawg Night. Stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. It's me, Marty, your host, also known as PDawg Night on the internet, or Lawyer Dog, or, well, I don't know what else you call me. Those are the only two that I know for sure. But anyway, welcome to the Morning Night Live. It's Wednesday, Hump Day! The 5th of August, 2020. Lady Boomer, well, I'm not going to say what, well, maybe she wouldn't care. Well, no, I'm not going to go there. It's Lady Boomer's birthday, and we have plans. We have plans for her birthday. I'm excited about it. We're going to do some cool stuff this weekend, especially. But it is the 388th episode of the Morning Night Live. I got to figure out something cool to do for my 400th episode. Maybe bring in some guests that I've been wanting to have here for a while. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might actually do a special show the day after my 400th episode, which would be 2 weeks from Friday. So we'll figure that out anyway. And I just, I just did the 800 subscriber thing, and it's funny. I've had quite a bump since that 800. I mean, it's already another 30 or 40 subscribers, I think. It's pretty cool. You guys are really helping me out. So anyway, welcome to the show. And I am going to talk a little bit about the peacefulness that is still happening around the country. And, we'll just talk a little bit about that and some things related to that. And because there are people out there who still believe that the whole moniker of riot does not apply anywhere. And, there are peaceful protests out there, but boy, maybe it's just because the ones that bleed lead. I mean, the ones that are, crazy. But it's funny because they don't really talk about them so much on the news. They always complain about what the police do. So we're going to talk about the activities of the peaceful protesters, and then we're going to talk about some of the tactics they use, and then we're going to talk about how other people talk about them. And it's just going to be a big protest Wednesday, because I don't have any Jussie news, because that thing's hanging out there and no one's really talking about it. So anyway, before we get started though, like I always do, we're going to say good morning to everybody. The first person in the chat today was the most redundant name on YouTube, CNN Sucks, who gets the bell. Good morning, sir. Thank you for being here. Also, our friend Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
Good morning. Also, good morning to Gamer Valine, who's here early today. Nice to see you. Good morning, Rolling Bear. Zero the Hero. Wikipedia Snippet, as opposed to Lemony Snicket. All you need. Good morning. Let's see. John Smith. Hello. Stabbing Joe Scarborough. Got the knife sharpened up real good. Dark Isle, good morning. Nice to see you here for the whole time today. Good morning, Attack Alpaca. Good morning, Jaeger Pony, my favorite Canadian. Good morning, Brutus. How you doing? Steven Crowder has balls of steel. He's currently doing BLM is a terrorist organization. Change my mind segment. Well, yeah, Crowder is bold. I'll give him that. Good morning to Maniac Man. Also, and we have our first super chat of the day, and one of my favorite alerts. Oh, that girl is a fine individual. Good morning. With the 2669, thank you, Jaeger Pony. repatriating you and the missus much coffee on her happy day. Well, that is very kind. I will let her know that you are an integral part of her birthday celebration. Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate it. And that's one of my favorite alerts, too. So there you go. Anyway, also, good morning to No Room for Squares, Cynical Lindsay, the Pissed Off Shih Tzu. Don't piss off the Shih Tzu. Or is the Shih Tzu already pissed off? Good morning. Anyway, so good morning, everybody. I hope you like. I've got this new moving graphic. I kind of like it, except sometimes it makes it look like I have a halo. But that's okay. It's all right. Anyway, good. So good morning, everybody. People are rolling in as we speak. All right, let's talk a little bit about. Let's talk about protesters. I got a lot of protester stories, and one that I found particularly interesting. This was not in Portland, but this is in Seattle. So the Seattle City Council. Wait a minute. Oh, by the way, I do have my cup of reparations coffee in my 2020 FFS cup. I know the lights kind of mess things up on that, but this is my 2020 FFS cup, which is available on PDawg Nightline. Just click the merch tab if you want to get one of those. I also have a mask. I haven't put it on anywhere, though. Good morning, Avocados Diabli, too. I will pee on your ankle, the Pissed Off Shih Tzu says. Oh, my goodness. I am. Okay, I'll be cool, all right? So anyway, this article, fascinating. Now, this is from a outlet called Indian Country Today. And I mean, we're talking casino Indians, not call center Indians. And protesters in Seattle have been threatening an indigenous city council member.
Wow.
Several tribal leaders in Washington state are denouncing incredibly personal and targeted attacks of violence against Seattle's lone indigenous city council member, Deborah Juarez, who in recent weeks has received death threats and has been harassed at home by mobs of protesters who support defunding the police. Good morning, Keenan, Richo, D.I. Freighter. What is happening? And Vencel was taken. That's a new name. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. If you've been here before, welcome back. It's just the first time I've seen the name, so I'm glad you're here. So and also Selected Boys here.
Yeah, boy.
Good morning. Okay, anyway, let me start over. Several tribal leaders in Washington state are denouncing incredibly personal and targeted attacks of violence against Seattle's lone indigenous city council member, Deborah Juarez, who in recent weeks has received death threats and has been harassed at home by mobs of protesters who support defunding the police. Juarez, who's part of the Blackfeet Nation, says she began receiving really vile messages July 10th after protesters shared her home address and contact information online. They doxed the only indigenous city council member of the Seattle City Council. Good morning, Chi-Town J. Protesters have showed up at her house by the dozens a few times, shining their car headlights. Oh, I'm sorry. She says they put... Now, she got... by the way, she gets a little nasty about this. Good morning, Rod Line. What's up? They put my personal cell phone number, my address, and started putting pictures of my home and address on Twitter and Facebook, and then I started getting vicious calls, Juarez says. Protesters have showed up at her house by the dozens a few times, shining their car headlights into her windows at night and using a bullhorn to chant and hurl insults, she said. She stayed at a motel one night and warned family members to keep away. People also spray-painted names such as corporate bootlicker and obscene messages on her street, and they continue to send her harassing and threatening text. This is my life. This is my home. This is not Coachella, motherfuckers. Well, I'm sorry. I threw in the embellishment. But I didn't even need to embellish this because let me continue this. This is not City Hall, Juarez said. Also, I'm not the toxic dumping ground where you need to come talk about your white privilege and how you need to talk about black lives because you're sure as you sure as fuck don't care about my life. Oh, I did not embellish that at all. That's her words, not mine. Because, like I said, finding a black person among Seattle protesters is like playing Where's Waldo. Anyway, the situation is particularly frustrating, Juarez said, because she supports the idea of allocating police funds elsewhere. She simply declined to sign a pledge to defund police that she found too vague, which is when the trouble started. Quote, we must balance our desire for expediency with foresight to ensure these reforms are permanent, Juarez said in a July 15th statement. We need to plant a new tree because the roots, trunk, branches, and fruit of this tree are poison, as are the future seeds, she wrote. Therefore, in order to reorganize, reduce, and reallocate such funds and duties, we need a plan, not a percentage. Well, that's not gonna do for them. You just said the wrong word. That's the wrong thing. Why do you hate black people, Councilwoman Juarez? Anyway, Juarez noted her vote wasn't even needed because 7 of the 9 city council members made the pledge, which included committing to a goal of cutting the police department's budget by 50%. These people are idiots. I'm sorry, they're just fucking idiots. They just are. If you're having, oh my God. Well, I don't know what Seattle's like, but most cities, if you cut the budget by 50%, you're just going to get more crime because they're not going to be able to allocate themselves. Slapper360, good morning. How you doing? Welcome to the show. I hope if you're not subscribed, subscribe and click that bell. The council has been discussing cuts to the department's 2020 budget as part of an effort to address COVID-19 budget impacts, the Seattle Times reported. Demonstrations have also gathered at the homes of Mayor Jenny Durkin and council members Alex Peterson, Lisa Herbold, and Tammy Morales. You know what? They're not just targeting the white people, it seems like. According to the newspaper, messages written on Pedersen's windows have included, "Don't be racist trash." Oh. Now, Juarez, who grew up on the Puyallup Indian Reservation, is a longtime attorney and former municipal and superior court judge who directed the state office of Indian Affairs under 2 governors. In 2015, she became the first tribal citizen elected to the city council in Seattle, a city that once barred Native Americans from living within its limits despite being named after the Squamish chief Seattle. Whereas pointing to her lifelong commitment to social and tribal justice, she said she got her start in activism as a child, participating in the Fish Wars, the 1960s and 70s era protest in the Puget Sound area, aimed at pressuring the federal government to recognize tribes' fishing rights. I've watched my elders be arrested and put in the back of cop cars and watched fish and wildlife agents hurt our people and jail our people, she said. I was a lawyer for the tribes for over 30 years in federal court defending treaty rights, economic development, Indian Child Welfare Act, doing depositions against white landowners. With Seattle ranked as a top U.S. city for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in a 2018 report, Juarez also sponsored a measure directing the city to work government to government with tribes to address the issues. Now, here's where this is the best part. Because it is. It's just it's just blue on blue crime. Anyway, the hypocrisy of these goofy white people who have these Black Lives Matter t-shirts are all of a sudden woke and talking about centering BIPOC, BIPOC, which stands for Black Indigenous People of Color. Oh, that's a buzzword. Is bullshit, Juarez says, because they didn't live our lives. They didn't live our trauma. That's the hypocrisy that breaks my heart because they don't know who I am. And anyway, it goes longer, but I'm stop there. I just like the fact that she's ripping on them. Here, there's not that much left here. Colleen Echohawk, executive director of the Chief Seattle Club, which aims to provide a sacred space to nurture, affirm, and renew the spirits of urban Native people, noted Juarez's humble commitment to helping Native nonprofits and youth programs and assisting Natives in getting housing. This behavior of terror toward Councilmember Deborah Juarez is disgusting and the antithesis of the movement, Echohawk said. Perpetuating violence against Native women has been the standard practice of the non-BIPOC or BIPOC community, or BIPOC community, and it has to stop. Several Washington tribal leaders also issued a statement Monday in support of Juarez. I wonder if they're going to come and, protest against the protesters. Wouldn't that be something? The Native Americans all coming to protest against the white Black Lives Matter protesters. That'd be interesting. Good morning, Katie Did Skate, Renovacio, Diesel Dave, and somebody else. There's one more. I think that. Oh no, that's it. Those are the new people in the chat. How you doing? So anyway, I've just found that to be fascinating. That the it's just like I said. It's kind of blue on blue crime. Also, there's trouble in paradise. By the way, the paradise near my home. Governor Walz is getting some blame from. Governor Walz of Minnesota, I should say. You probably don't know who Governor Walz is, but Governor Walz has been getting blamed by none other than Mayor Jacob Frey, saying Walz was hesitating. The Minneapolis mayor blames governor for slow response to riots. Wow. Hello, Kingslayer Damocles. I'm glad to see that you're lurking today. What's up? So... This is rich because, as you know, Anna Lynn, what's up? This is rich. This is just so rich. Jacob Frey told his police officers to abandon the 3rd precinct, and it got burnt down. Hello, Smarty Bear. So I'm trying to. This is funny to me. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey accused Governor Tim Walz of dragging his feet while the city burned during the George Floyd riots.
Wow.
Frey said Monday that Walz hesitated to send in the National Guard as widespread looting and arson took place near the police's 3rd precinct in Minneapolis. He said that Walz would not commit to sending in the National Guard while calling Frey's response an abject failure. Well, yes, it was. Documents obtained by the Star Tribune show that text messages, emails, and call logs back up Frey's recollection of the event. Oh, well, I missed that part when I read this the first time. I don't know why I missed that. Through an extremely difficult situation, I told the truth. I relayed information as best I could to state partners, and we did what was demanded for the sake of our city. You didn't do shit! You little pissant. You didn't do anything. Oh my God. He called... I shall continue. I'm going to not explode. We expressed the seriousness of the situation. The urgency was clear. He later added, he did not say yes. He said he would consider it. Now, that is factual. When they were talking about bringing in the National Guard, the governor absolutely hesitated and didn't do anything. But I'm not sure what he expected. It wasn't like the National Guard was going to come in and supplement the police. The police were told to back off. So what do you want to do? Have people coming in military uniforms in, National Guard not really trained for that kind of stuff? I don't get it. Anyway, Frey said he was told by Walz's team that a phone call between the two men was all the governor needed to send in the National Guard as protesters began to swarm the 3rd Precinct police station on May 27th. Walz never made the order, though a press release announcing the order was drafted by his office. On the morning of May 28th, Frey followed up with a formal written request acknowledging widespread looting and arson. That's a little late. Walz agreed to deploy the National Guard, but only 90 officers arrived that night. Protests burned. What the hell's going on here? Protests burned the precinct building on Thursday night after officers evacuated. Public Safety Commissioner John Harrington said Frey's request for the National Guard protection was rather vague at first, and then when the formal written response arrived, the list was so all-encompassing we could not possibly staff all the things they wanted. Walz's office denied that Frey was told on the phone that his call was enough to allow the order to move forward. Walz spokesman Teddy Shan said that Frey failed to provide the proper details on May 27th. So I'm pretty sure he was panicked and just said, kind of like, what's that? There's a, no, is it the Naked Gun 2.0 or whatever, where Draven's out there yelling, everything's fine, and shit's just blowing up around him. But anyway, I'm sure that's how he felt at the time. As a 24-year veteran of the Minnesota National Guard, Governor Walz knows how much planning goes into a successful mission, Shan said. That's why we pushed the city of Minneapolis for details and a strategy. He ordered the Minnesota National Guard to start preparing Thursday morning, which allowed them to deploy in both St. Paul and Minneapolis that evening, per the mayor's request. Text messages between Frey and his team showed the mayor's anxiety as he waited for a response, with one message stating, Walz was hesitating. Frey called it a hit in the gut to see Walz's team called his response an abject failure. It was, while slow walking the call to the National Guard. Well, he may have been doing that. I don't know. If you remember at the time, everyone was reluctant to do anything like that. It was happening in cities all over the country. And did you see a whole lot of cities calling in states calling in the National Guard for any of these protests, riots, looting, pillaging, and murder? No, it didn't happen. And in fact, you're not seeing it anywhere now for the most part, other than Washington, D.C., where, of course, that's all federal land. So that would be, whatever. So anyway, it was a sharp departure from every conversation we had at that point, Frey later said, adding, not just for me, but for so many in our city, that we were doing everything we could. Several buildings were burned and looted during the riots that followed the death of Floyd, a 46-year-old black man. Oops. Well, it'll ring there in a second. Who died while in the custody of Minneapolis police officers. At least 2 people in Minneapolis died, and $55 million in property damage occurred in the riots prior to the arrival of the National Guard. And it turned out to end up being a total of 16 people dead. So again, trouble in paradise. Moving on. Hang on a second here. No, there it is. There's the bell. Don't know what the hell happened there. Let's see. As we are moving on. Now, this is, how some of these cities and prosecutors in some of these bigger cities where they're having people come in or voted into these major prosecutor offices, and they're saying, "Oh, well, let's just do the no bail thing," and they're implementing no bail systems and kind of catch release and put people on their own recognizance. Well, in New York, a gang member carries out 3 shootings after being freed without bail, according to prosecutors. He was set free and allegedly went right back to shooting. A Brooklyn gang member released without bail in May on an attempted murder charge participated in at least 3 drive-by shootings after he was freed. Federal prosecutors allege Darius Sutton, 23, was initially arrested in connection with a May 16th shooting in the courtyard of an East New York building that left a man seriously injured. Despite the attempted murder rap, Sutton was set free without bail the same day of his May 20 arrest. Brooklyn District Attorney's Office said the lone witness in the case recanted. Ew, that's not good. At the time of the arraignment, the sole eyewitness had recanted, so he did not have... Okay, now that's different than what this headline says. The lone witness recanted, so he did not have sufficient evidence to keep the defendant in custody, a spokesman for the DA said in a statement. The investigation is continuing, and we hope other witnesses come forward. That's a completely different thing. That, you know what, New York Post, you blew it. That's a poorly written headline. Good morning. This is Kyle. Good morning, Cindy Rochelle. So I'm not even gonna read the rest of this. Although the fact that he was involved in a shooting and then released, that's still. Did nobody see this but besides this one witness? I don't know. I'm gonna be on time, but one of our older cats vomited in the instrument panel of the motor coach. Ugh. Oh, Cindy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. Hello, Johnny Hellcat too. Anyway, okay. This article pisses me off. I'm not reading any more of it. But let's do this. Before I move on, let's do the daily shill because I haven't done that yet. After I close a couple windows here. Oh, Oprah Winfrey, what are you doing? Good God, I'm not going to read that. Hey, hi there. Welcome. I appreciate all of you who are here today at the Morning Night Live. As you know, the Morning Night Live is sponsored by you, the viewer of the Morning Night Live. If you'd be so kind, please share the stream out. The share arrow down there somewhere or up there. You can follow me on Twitter. Mine's Gavin Parler, and retweet, repost, republish, or echo my daily announcement of the show. I am very active on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, follow me on Twitter also. Also, you can really support the show with your donations and super chat. If you're able to do that kind of thing, you can go to the PDawgnight.live link right there, or in the chat, it says right there, this show is sponsored by viewers like you. Support the show with your donations to have your super chats read live on the show. You will become a permanent part of this episode of the Morning Night Live. All right. By the way, I'm shooting commercials for this show and for other things because I always forget something in that spiel. So I'm just going to shoot a couple commercials and I'm going to go click and then the commercial play and then I'll come back after the commercial. And it might even give me time to get more coffee or something. Also, by the way, the 2020 FFS merch is in the link at PDawgnight.live. There's a little merch link, and if you want a coffee cup, or I got a couple shirts, a hat, and a coffee cup right now. I'll be adding more merch eventually, but merch is just fun. It's really not. It's just fun to have. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, there you go. Good morning, W.R. Costin. How are you doing? All right. Well, let's move on. And now speaking of peaceful protests, there was a hearing in the Senate, the United States Senate. And I think it was Ted Cruz, who was the chairman of this particular committee. And he was talking about the peaceful protest. And so here's the article from PJ Media. Ted Cruz video eviscerates Democrats' false narrative about peaceful protesters. On Tuesday, Democratic senators again whitewashed violent Antifa rioters as peaceful protesters, demonizing President Trump for bad faith nonsense, for daring to speak the truth, and for daring to speak the truth about the violence of the rioters. What we've seen in Portland are peaceful protesters in need of protection from federal officers. Senator Mazie Hirono. What? Hello, Chadwick Dupree. This is what Mazie Hirono said. What we've seen in Portland. I'm going to have to read that again. What we've seen in Portland are peaceful protesters in need of protection from federal officers.
Wow.
Senator Mazie Hirono said at a Senate hearing on protecting speech by stopping anarchist violence, hosted by Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas. She argued that any mention of the Antifa violence plays into a nefarious Trump narrative aiming to dismiss protesters. President Trump is deliberately trying to undermine the massive protests for racial justice by dismissing them as anarchist and Antifa, Hirono insisted. She condemned Trump for sending in federal law enforcement outfitted as if for war. good God, I don't think she believes what she's saying. But let's see. To justify this unnecessary deployment of federal officers, President Trump and his administration have repeatedly portrayed Portland protesters as violent anarchists and members of Antifa. But in the past 4 weeks, what we have actually seen are federal agents beating up on protesters, the Democrat insisted. Also, Senator Ron Wyden, a Democrat from Oregon, also insisted that the violent mobs in Portland, Seattle, Chicago, and everywhere else were truly peaceful protesters. This argument that Americans are exercising the right to peaceful protest are anarchists, terrorists, and agitators is bad faith nonsense by the president and his enablers, who are calling peaceful protest anarchists and terrorists and sending paramilitary forces, as known as the U.S. Marshals. He called talk about lefty anarchy as completely baseless. Well, let's just, and they go on and on about what the Democrats were saying. Well, let's see what Ted Cruz had to say about that. We'll just play this clip here. Oh, it's 10 minutes long. Holy shit. Well, you know what?
To be polite,
it's worth
and
it.
Peaceful.
Yep, let's.
It guarantees not only the freedom of speech, but the right of the people peaceably to assemble. Peaceably matters a great deal in that protection. Without our First Amendment rights, rights that protect the countless ways in which people can peaceably express their social and political views, democracy wouldn't work. The right of the people peaceably to assemble and to demand changes, to petition their government for grievances, is in the very best tradition of America. No history of the United States, no recounting of the unending struggle to live up to our founding promises would be complete without recognition of the peaceful movements.
Okay, he goes, all right, I'm gonna skip this part, and I'm just gonna go to the video that he shows. Well, here, he starts showing pictures first. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because we don't need to hear everything here. Let's see.
A retired officer who served St. Louis with honor for many years.
Oh, that's not the video.
They also damaged or destroyed countless buildings and businesses. In Minneapolis alone, rioters burned affordable housing and damaged over 400 businesses.
All right, I'm going to pause this for the super chat that just came up. Mr. Cider donated at $5.56, and we got as you know, I have new alerts for the gun-related dollar amounts. Dixon Cider says, as my father says, fuck around and find out. Thank you, Dixon Cider. Thank you. That's a unique name, Cider. I'm not familiar with that surname, but again, thank you, Dixon Cider. Let's continue with Ted Cruz here.
Many of them owned by African Americans.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to skip ahead to the video. Is this it? Oh, no.
For good measure, in graffiti on the county courthouse, they wrote, "Until the police and ICE are abolished, we will burn this city down piece by piece."
That's peaceful. Now,
they are telling us
the fire
what their
of peace.
demands are. To shut down and abolish the police.
Okay.
This violence should be universally condemned. All 100 senators ought to come together and say, don't murder your fellow citizens, don't attack police officers, protect each other's rights.
By the way, I'm going to put this page in the chat so that if you want to see the whole video there, you can watch it. Just pop that in there.
Leaders unite.
All right, I'm going to move just to the video that he played at the end.
We're seeing too many local officials, mayors.
Here we go. And we'll full size this bad boy.
And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Oh.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation. into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
Yeah, piece by piece.
To stand up for freedom together. So let freedom reign.
A passionate movement for justice.
Passionate. Oh, very passionate. Yes, they're showing some passion there. They do what they do. Yes.
That's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
77-year-old David Dorn was shot to death as a pawn shop he was protecting was being looted.
Federal Protective Service officer Dave Underwood was killed. Authorities say it was a targeted attack on law enforcement.
This is ridiculous.
Oh, the fire of peace. You know what? I think, you know what? That fire. Well, let me go back to that fire for a second. Let me just check that fire. Hang on. Here, hang on.
Law enforcement.
Let's see. That's there. That's that. Now look. Now, okay. Now what are they talking about here? I'm sorry, but this is just a marshmallow roast. It's a piece. It's just a campfire. They got some sticks and some weenies and some marshmallows. It's the fire of peace.
This is ridiculous. These people are tearing up our livelihood.
Yeah, see, no, you know what? They just have some protective equipment. Let me pause here. Thank you, Kingslayer Damocles, with the $2. I'm sure if there were people outside the Dems' houses attempting to burn them down, they would want real bullets to be fired, not rubber ones. You know? It's funny how, it's funny you say that. Thank you for the $2, sir. It's funny when you say that because you saw how fast Mayor Jenny Durkin shut shit down as soon as they came to her house, right? And as soon as they mentioned going to Ted Wheeler's house, Ted Wheeler started talking about, the feds. Oh, maybe you should go get rid of those guys, those feds who are causing all these riots 30 days into the riots. Good morning to the gayest person on YouTube, by the way. So thank you, Kingslayer Damocles. Let's finish this up. That's peaceful. They came with okay, so that's that. Now, the reason this became interesting, I didn't catch that until later, but I saw Mazie Hirono's rant, and apparently, now they put it that she adopts Antifa tactics against GOP witness at Senate hearing about Antifa. Senator Mazie Hirono, Hawaii, brought cancel culture to the Senate on Tuesday. She cited the scandal-plagued far-left smear factory, the Southern Poverty Law Center, to demonize a national security and terrorism witness invited by Senator Cruz during a hearing on peaceful protests and Antifa. The expert responded by noting that her cancel culture demonization echoed Antifa's tactics of branding as fascist anyone who disagrees with its political goals. Do they have the video of this? They don't. Anyway, here's what she said. You obviously can invite whoever you want to this hearing, but I would like to record my concern regarding the presence of the Center for Security Policy at this hearing, Hirono said. The Center for Security Policy is an organization that has been spreading anti-Muslim conspiracy theories. Hirono referenced an SPLC attack on CSP founder Frank Gaffney, who she referred to as Frank Gaffrey, that he spread the conspiracy theory that former President Barack Obama was a Muslim. This claim comes from a 2009 Washington Examiner op-ed in which Gaffrey half-mockingly dubbed Obama America's first Muslim president, the same way some called Bill Clinton America's first black president. In addition to this smear twisted out of context, Hirono cited the SPLC's accusation that CSP, the Center for Security Policy, is a hate group, and noted that the Anti-Defamation League has criticized CSP. Kyle Scheidler, the CSP senior analyst for Homeland Security and counterterrorism crews invited to testify, pushed back on Hirono's attacks. The quote, the Center for Security Policy is a national security think tank that has been in operation since 1988. We do a variety of work on national security topics, including nuclear deterrence, missile defense, biodefense, geopolitical challenges, including Russia and China, and that in addition to work on terrorism, terrorist ideologies, and homeland security, Scheidler said. We are particularly proud of our work in trying to understand the ideologies behind jihadist terrorism, he added. We are proud of the work that we have done with American Muslims, including those who are senior fellows at our organization. Oh, yes, the anti-Muslim organization has Muslims in their organization who seek to oppose jihadist elements in their communities. Yes, this anti-Muslim hate group has Muslim senior fellows. M. Judy Jasser, for example, is a Navy veteran, a doctor, and a founder and president of American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Dali Al-Akidi, an award-winning journalist and commentator, is also a Muslim and a CSP fellow. So we reject these claims from organizations that are engaging in behaviors which is essentially the same that Antifa engages in, which is to say that anyone offers an analysis that disagrees with them must be ipso facto be a member of an unacceptable organization or hate group or what have you, Scheidler added. It's divisive. It ruins the ability to engage in analysis that is useful to the country, he concluded. Anyway, so they just go on talking about how the SPLC isn't exactly the most reliable organization when it comes to naming hate groups. Back in Portland, ladies and gentlemen, back in Portland, the police officially declared an unlawful assembly as protest continues. Now, I have a question for you. Good morning. I just saw you pop in. I have a question for you, chat. Maybe it's just by faulty memory, me being, having that being the last of the boomers, right? It was my understanding that the reason there was such turmoil in Portland was due to the fact that the Fed people who are protecting the federal courthouse and the federal building there in Portland, my understanding was it was because of those federal agents who were antagonizing the protesters and doing illegal shit to them. It was my understanding that if those people would have just back off, everything would be just fine in Portland. Oh, silly man. Portland police officially declared an unlawful assembly Monday night as demonstrations continued in the city for the 68th night. Protesters were told to leave the area at the Penumbra Kelly building in Northeast Portland after police declared the assembly unlawful due to criminal activity. Criminal activity? How could that be? The feds backed off. If you do not disperse to the east, you are subject to arrest and use of force, including crowd control munitions, the police department tweeted. An unlawful assembly has been declared several times over the past few weeks in Portland. Protests, many of which began peacefully, escalated into violent riots where protesters set fire to the federal courthouse and clashed with police. A crowd of about 150 people clashed with police as they gathered at the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office Monday night, which marked the 68th straight night of protest, the Oregonian reported. Protesters threw water bottles and other objects, but they were just offering the police a drink because they looked parched. No? Oh, they threw water bottles and other objects at police and shined high-powered lasers into the officer's eyes, according to the report. An officer was punched, but it was a love tap, and another was hit with a protester's baton. Did the protesters have a marching band? Pepper spray and smoke canisters were used. Police appeared to make an arrest at a separate gathering at the Portland Justice Center, according to the Oregonian. So, the protesters of peace. Now, here's an article. News Thud kind of just pulls stuff from other things, and I just kind of wanted to take a quick look at this. It says, just like that, Portland falls back into chaos. Antifa has a new target. Antifa has a new target in Portland as the city falls back into chaos. Antifa rioters blockaded the street near the East Portland Precinct building. They took benches from local businesses and used them as barricades. Those are picnic tables, not just benches. That's not just the bench, it's the whole damn table. So this is a tweet from Andy No. Antifa rioters blockade a street near Southeast Portland Police building. They steal picnic benches from a nearby restaurant to use as barricades. They end up trashing the street and leaving that there for others to clean, like last time. Now that's, Andy No has some bias here. Violent protesters are attacking Oregon State Police in downtown Portland. One officer was hit on the head with a glass projectile as the squad was retreating. Separately, hundreds of Black Bloc protesters have surrounded the Southeast Police building and shut down the street. Here, we'll click this one, see if there's decent video here. Of course, this doesn't seem like as big a crowd as there's been, but still, they're... Okay, this is just, looks like the Portland police are packing up to move off. I don't need to finish that. Anyway, then Portland police arrested a suspect with a gun and were confronted by a crowd. Shortly thereafter, the Kelly building was met by protesters throwing projectiles, shining lights to incite authorities. Police asked the crowd to disperse, which they failed to do. And then this is someone complaining about them bull rushing the protesters who are not complying. I don't know. Anyway, a couple things found: knife, gun, brass knuckles, and other shit. So it's a peaceful protest. I'm just saying. All right, one more here. Let's see. Oh, and in Seattle, now this is interesting. According to this lawsuit, Seattle police violated civil rights by defending themselves, protesters claim in an Orwellian suit. I know that there is a, I don't know if it's ACLU or, I can't remember who it is, but they're suing the police departments. Anyway, try this new narrative on its size. Not only are the violent riots in cities like Seattle really just peaceful protests, but the excessive police response is also a form of invidious class discrimination aimed at preventing the poor from protesting? Oh my gosh, most of these are kids. They're young people probably living at home or whatever, or teachers. There's been a bunch of teachers arrested in these things. It's kind of weird how many teachers they've arrested. A new lawsuit claims that Seattle effectively levied a protest tax by allowing police to use military-grade munitions to break up unruly crowds. Listen to this. Only people who are rich enough to buy armor have First Amendment right to protest, or so the argument goes. Oh my gosh. This argument is absurd from top to bottom. In fact, the lawsuit focuses on alleged incidents of police violence that came on July 25th amid a violent riot that injured 59 police officers and landed one of them in the hospital. Rioters had fired mortar fireworks at the cops, yet the lawsuit twice claims that police acted, quote, in the in the absence of an immediate safety threat. Now, this is the picture. That's the picture of the fireworks right there that they did. Oh my gosh. Anyway, the lawsuit claims that the continued misuse of I can hardly even read this without. The lawsuit claims that, quote, the continued misuse of war munitions by the Seattle Police Department against civilians turns the streets, a public forum and a site of protest, into a pay-to-protest racket where only a privileged few who are wealthy enough to or popular enough to crowdsource funds to purchase gear akin to that used by the police department they fund can truly be in the streets. So basically, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. The plaintiffs also echo Antifa agitators claiming that police use of force converts those protests into a police playpen where dangerous toys are wielded at will against a population questioning the necessity of this force. It is not hyperbole to note that this is the soil in which fascism is tilled. Police met out violence and chill speech such that civilians feel they must be outfitted as soldiers before they can exercise speech. I got an idea. How about you don't break shit and try to burn down buildings? That'd be a good start. Yes, the specter of fascism is looming, and the government is slapping a de facto protest tax on citizens by protecting themselves and others amid violent riots. On July 25th, a mob terrorized the streets of Seattle, setting a Starbucks on fire, smashing windows, and using a van filled with explosives to supply rioters who blew an 8-inch hole through a wall of the police department East Precinct. Rioters also attacked police with bear spray. In all, 59 officers were injured throughout the day, with one of those being hospitalized. Injuries range from abrasions and bruising to burns and a torn meniscus. The police reported. The department released a short video compilation of rioters' attacks on police officers. The video shows mortar fireworks exploding in close proximity to officers who get struck and wounded by the mob's musicians. We'll see how long this is. It's only a minute 10. Let's watch this video by the Seattle Police Department. I know, I'm being a bootlicker. Okay, it is going. It's just... You know, I don't think that's proper fireworks safety etiquette. Is it just me? Oh, there they go again. They're shooting fireworks at the officers. You know, that could be pretty dangerous. You know, Kingslayer Damocles, I think you're right. They are trying to goad the police into using actual live rounds. Okay, so anyway, that's an example of what they were dealing with in Seattle. Police impounded. Let's see. They said police investigated a van that followed the group of rioters and reportedly stocked them with explosives, I'm assuming fireworks. Police impounded the van. After obtaining a search warrant, they discovered firework pyrotechnics, smoke bombs, stun guns, bear and pepper spray, makeshift spike strips, and gas masks. Best expressed the obvious, saying the van provided evidence that not everyone who comes to these protests is peaceful. Peaceful protesters do not show up with a van full of explosives. Durkin later insisted that most of the crowd protested peacefully. That could be true, but one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch, girl. Oh, I don't care what they say. I don't care what you heard now. Thank you. That's my imitation of the Osmonds, but in the wrong key. Durkin later insisted. Okay, she admitted. Okay. Durkin later insisted that most of the crowd protested peacefully, but Even she admitted that the Antifa rioters seemed well organized with this kind of destructive power. The bear spray is causing burns and itching, stinging to officers' face and exposed skin. Sergeant James Lee, who works with the city's arson bomb squad, said at a press conference that this lasts much longer than the type of pepper spray that police use and is much stronger. It is not safe for use on humans. During the previous weekend, Antifa rioters tore a devastating path through Seattle, smashing windows at the municipal courthouse and various businesses, including storefronts for Amazon Go, Starbucks, and Walgreens. They targeted both the West Precinct Police Station and the East Precinct Police Station, the site of the Capitol Hill occupied protest, or Chopper Chaz. Last month, they fired mortar-style fireworks at both stations, causing a fire in the East Precinct Station. It was a fire of peace. While Durkin did condemn the arson, destruction, and violence, claiming that they undermined the push and need and voice for systemic change, she also blamed President Donald Trump. She said the violence is sowing those divisions that the president wants and playing right into his hands. Later, she insisted that Trump's initiative to send federal officers to help cities facing a terrifying crime wave is a dress rehearsal for martial law. Well, apparently he didn't do it in Seattle. She's so whatever. Anyway, yes, it's very Orwellian and so on and so forth. All right, let me see. I got time for whatever I want to do here, I suppose. Let's back up a little bit. This is an interesting article. Now, someone asked me yesterday, what did I think of the George Floyd body cam footage? And so, my thoughts on it is it only changes the narrative in that George Floyd did resist a little bit and he is the one who put himself on the ground. He asked to lay on the ground. But as I said yesterday, the officers in this case failed in their duty as far as situational awareness. Yes, they are subduing the suspect. Yes, they're keeping him from moving. But they have to be aware of the welfare of the person that they are arresting. And in this case, these officers, particularly Derek Chauvin and the guy standing. Now, the two guys behind Chauvin, or whatever his name is, the two trainees, I give them slightly less blame. One, they're trainees. They're on the job. They're listening to what the trainer is telling them to do. And they can't see George Floyd's face. Chauvin and the guy who's keeping the crowd away, their situational awareness should have told them that this man was in some serious trouble, and that they needed to do something to try to keep him alive so that he could face actual justice and not this very miscarriage of justice. And they deserve to be charged probably with manslaughter and go to jail for some time because they're the cause of death. So I found this article, which I found interesting, from the American Thinker, that says, I think this footage that they released, I agree that it could cause problems for Keith Ellison. Now, one thing that I'm not sure if, I haven't read the whole article, so we may go through most of it. But one thing that in Minnesota, when someone is charged with a degree of murder, the judge has the option to allow the jury to have the suspect, or whatever, what do you call it, the defendant, charge him with a lower charge. Okay, that's something that Minnesota juries can do. Not every state allows that, but Minnesota does. But anyway, newly released George Floyd body cam footage should make Keith Ellison nervous. Those of us who care about actual justice can only view the newly leaked arrest video of George Floyd in one way: damning to the media narrative. It does screw up the media narrative. I don't think it screws up the fact that is particularly Derek Chauvin should be charged with at minimum manslaughter. A viewing of the video reveals that the events leading up to Floyd's unfortunate and entirely avoidable death are not as they initially seemed, and its release is nothing short of tossing a massive wrench into the agenda-driven gears of media and political discourse. The 4 officers might well be guilty of something, but the current second-degree charge for murder is not one of them. The political overreach in the case will cause nothing short of absolute chaos when the verdict is read. Again, I would say the judge would need to step in if it's clear that this is not second-degree murder. But anyway, in the immediate aftermath of the Floyd incident this past May, Minnesota's top lawman, an activist first, and a Democrat attorney general second, by the name of Keith Ellison, recommended a third-degree murder charge for Derek Chauvin. I'm sorry, it's third-degree murder in Minnesota, not manslaughter anyway. And the 3 assisting officers. Under Minnesota statute, third-degree murder would include an action that is without intent to affect the death of any person yet causes the death of another by perpetrating an act eminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life. That is very accurate as to what happened, the third-degree murder. As far as you watch that very much describes what happened. Taking the route of unintentional murder seems appropriate, given that a routine interaction culminated in the presumably accidental death of an offender in custody. We didn't know all the facts, but there was near unanimity that something bad happened and that legal consequence seemed at the very least legitimate. However, vociferous protests and riots swayed the AG to push for an elevated charge of second-degree murder. One aspect of Minnesota statutes defines second-degree murder as being intentional. Does anybody is anybody, at least in my chat, believe that that was an intentional death? Do you think that Derek Chauvin and all 4 officers, for that matter, all 4 officers have been charged with second-degree murder? How many of those officers do you think wanted to kill George Floyd? You can give me a number in the chat as I keep reading this. It is clear that Chauvin's actions were not. Ellison himself is not seeking it on those grounds. Perhaps lesser known and still under the second-degree murder statute is a clause whereby the charge is applicable when the defendant can be proved having caused the death of someone without intent to affect the death of any person while committing or attempting to commit a felony offense. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. The last part is where Ellison is gambling on a prior felony having been committed in the events of the arrest preceding Floyd's demise. Oh, I see. So he's saying that if it's in the act of another felony, it could be considered second-degree murder. And Ellison say that they committed another felony here. So that the fact that they committed another felony and the man died in their custody is cause for second-degree murder. So here's the last part where Ellison is gambling on a prior felony having been committed in the events of the arrest preceding Floyd's demise. The alleged felony here is the illegal excessive use of force, where the legal challenge arises is being able to prove that officers used excessive force, and where police officers generally receive a lot of judicial leeway. Interesting, because the act I'm trying to figure out where the excessive force, at least not in the video. They didn't force him into the vehicle. He asked to lay down. Okay, I can see that. I think a third-degree murder charge is easy on this one. he's gambling on this second degree part. Okay. Within the handbook for the Minneapolis Police Department, officers are trained and allowed under the Supreme Court Graham versus Connor decision to apply force when a subject is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. The video clearly shows a lengthy struggle to get a compliance from Floyd. Furthermore, officers appear to be generally operating under the handbook's guide for non-deadly force, which is understood as force that does not have the reasonable likelihood of causing or creating a substantial risk of death or great bodily harm. The video shows ample efforts of police negotiating with Floyd in every non-forceful way possible. Still, the handbook does allow for more aggressive measures that include physically subduing, controlling, capturing, restraining, or physically managing any person. Critically, and until the language was changed on June 9th, neck restraints were also allowed under Minneapolis Police Department guidelines for the specific purpose of restraining unsafe and unpredictable suspects if force were required. Given that piece, Ellison would have to prove that Chauvin applied the restraint knowing that it was excessive and that he was restraining Floyd incorrectly, as well as prove in a court of law that the restraint itself was the pivotal cause of Floyd's death. The Hennepin County autopsy revealed no evidence of crushed bones or ligaments that would typically indicate asphyxiation. The autopsy itself has since been removed from the Hennepin County's online database. All of that aside, the greatest revelation from the video is the language employed by Floyd throughout the ordeal. He claimed he was claustrophobic, and most importantly, that he could not breathe during the attempted arrest and relocation to a squad car. Though he eventually succumbed to the alleged excessive force, Floyd was already displaying and verbalizing those sentiments well before everything else occurred. It seemed just as likely that the combination of his medical history and the myriad of drugs and alcohol present in his system at the time of his death played as much of a role, but if not a larger one, in his eventual death, as did specific use of force. As the entire media narrative rests on the fact that Chauvin essentially choked out Floyd, this revelation will only go further to impede Ellison's ability to prove that officers' actions led to the suspect's death. Again, and that's why I still say third-degree murder, because their situational awareness did not I can't believe that these assholes didn't figure out what was happening and weren't taking steps to revive Floyd, when he first lost consciousness. But anyway, again, that's negligence, and I personally don't think it's intentional. Now I just go back here. Some people think that one is intentional. You think Chauvin was trying to kill him? I don't think Chauvin was trying to kill him. I think Chauvin was just being an asshole. Unless something comes up, I know they supposedly knew each other when they're working off duty as a bouncer and all this stuff. There's the conspiracy theory that Chauvin was Floyd was stripping Taylor's girlfriend and shit like that, which is all just, I don't know. But anyway, because of the media blitz surrounding the events, most Americans are aware of the now notorious image of a white police officer, Derek Chauvin, kneeling on the neck of a now deceased black man, George Floyd. The imagery set off weeks of protest and morphed into looting, conflagrations, and general chaos in blue metropolises. I don't even know if that's metropolises. I don't know if that's a word. Anyway, some cities like Portland, Oakland, and Louisville are still coming to terms with these protests, despite the media's constant denial that anything out of the ordinary has happened. If the second-degree charges do not stick next spring, when the case is expected to go to trial, there's no question that Minneapolis and other major city centers will devolve into an even more fiery chaos, likely far deadlier than what we have now. The narrative of white systemic racism is already so contentious that the political and anarchical left, okay, whatever, if that's a word, left would feel entirely vindicated by the response. It happened I think that's supposed to be like this last time. No doubt another miscarriage of justice as this would be portrayed regardless of self-evident truths and evidence would likewise result in extirpative behaviors. This guy must have dug out a thesaurus for this article. Holy shit, Parker Beauregard. Is that your name? Parker Beauregard. Jesus Christ. Can you just write in simple English for, old boomers like me? In reality, it is not just Ellison who should be held responsible for the unnecessary pain and anger that will unquestionably arise in the aftermath of a not guilty verdict. The mainstream media, Black Lives Matter, and every Democrat have capitalized on this tragedy for political gain and are equally responsible for inciting hate and violence across the country. If nothing else, they withheld, if not exculpatory, at least additional evidence that portrayed the encounter in a less, for lack of a better word, black and white way. Though there is enough blame to go around, Ellison still could have ensured a judicious victory and prison time for all of the officers by appropriately charging them. It would not have been a life sentence, but it would have been jail time and been an appeasement to the black community. And the increased charges inexplicably came after seeing every video, reading every witness testimony, and collaborating with legions of police and legal personnel, and still going for broke. If and when this morphs into an even worse desecration of life and property, it will be a direct result of Ellison's race-based lies, instigations, not the exoneration of police officers. So, I'm thinking maybe I could be wrong. Maybe juries can't lower the charge. I think a judge can instruct the jury in Minnesota, though, that they have an option to do the lesser charge. Plus, I think second-degree murder is not the only charge in this case. He has several other charges that probably would stick even if the second-degree murder charge doesn't. But like I said, I don't personally believe that any of the four officers intentionally killed George Floyd. And the idea that this was in the act of another felony, that's laughable now that you see the footage. The only person who is I even question, I even Chauvin. I don't think Chauvin intentionally killed this man. But again, I'm going to say it over and over and over. They completely and utterly failed in their duty to bring in a suspect alive. And for that, they should be charged at least with manslaughter, especially the fact that this man lost consciousness 3 minutes with 3 minutes after he's lost consciousness, they're still restraining him. So, that's their screw up, particularly Chauvin, who is doing the training, particularly the other officer who is a veteran officer, the two rookies who are being trained, who couldn't really see what was on the other side of Derek Chauvin. I would not be shocked if somehow they were let off, but Chauvin for sure, and also the officer who was keeping other people away. All right, let's see. Let's do this. I'm going to go let's find out if there's any breaking news, and then we're going to get out of here because time is not on my side right now. So we're going to check Twitter again. If you haven't been around for a while, or you're not here as often, you may not have heard, but I've decided to forego doing Twitter trends and rather do just find any breaking news that's happening as we go along. First of all, before I do that, thank you to the people who have tweeted out the show or shared the show. Cindy Rochelle, let's see, Necrosaw Collins, Diesel Dave, Chi-Town Jay, Truckin' Bear, Tyler F, Cynical Lindsay, and Jaeger Pony. Oh no, Jaeger Pony, you just retweeted my my poll from the other day. Also, let's see, I do have one message here with an article in it. Let's see. Speaking of COVID, let's see. Well, let's check out. Lindsay sent me a little video here. Let's see what this is about real quick. Is this the one where he's CDC director acknowledges possible inflation of the COVID-19 death count? Yeah, we'll watch this real quick. This is short and sweet. Let's see if this pops up here. Here we go.
One of the things that concerns me also is I wish that Admiral Guar was here yet. I asked this question of him last time was here, and we didn't have enough time to continue our discussion on it with regards to the sort of perverse incentive for the medical folks to claim that somebody died of COVID versus if it's an automobile accident, for instance, as long as you have COVID in your system, you get to claim it as a COVID death, in which means you get to get more money as the attending physician, hospital, whatever. And he acknowledged that the statistics he's getting from the states are overinflated. We found that the governor of Colorado, who is a Democrat, actually did a research on this and found he had to get rid of 12% of the deaths that were recorded in state. Dr. Redfield, would you like to comment on that a little bit about the perverse incentive, and is there an effort to try and do something different in the way that these deaths are recorded so we actually have better records and better numbers, better data to go with?
Thank you, Congressman. I think you're correct in that we've seen this in other disease processes too. Early in the HIV epidemic, somebody may have a heart attack but also have HIV. The hospital would prefer the DRG for HIV because there's greater reimbursement. So I do think there's some reality to that. When it comes to death reporting, though, I mean, ultimately it's how the physician defines it in the death certificate. In our National Health Statistics group here in Hyattsville, we review all those death certificates. So I think it's probably less operable in the cause of death, although I won't say there are not some cases. I do think, though, when it comes to hospital reimbursement issues for individuals that get discharged, they're...
So anyway, yeah. Yes, there's incentive to label something as a COVID death. Government's paying more for COVID deaths. They're paying more for hospitalizations. They're paying more for, on vents, although I don't think they're doing vents unnecessarily, but still. Yes, they are incentive to do that shit. Whatever. All right. So let's see. Checking for any breaking news here. I don't see anything. I don't see anything. I don't know. My phone's ringing. Let's see. Oh, yeah. There's a Missouri Representative William Lacey in Missouri. Activist Cori Bush unseats longtime Missouri Representative William Lacey Clay. Black Lives protest leader Cori Bush ousted the 19-year incumbent William Clay Lacey in Missouri's Democratic primary. Cori Bush's first run in 2018 had been profiled in a documentary, Knock Down the House. Black Lives Matter protest leader Cori Bush ousted the 19-year incumbent William Lacey Clay in Missouri's Democratic primary. It's the same sentence. Why did they play that twice? Oh, they doubled this up. I'm like reading it. It's like, I feel like, what's the guy on that? Anyway, if elected in November, she would be the first black woman to represent Missouri in Congress. With 100% of the vote in, Cori Bush narrowly defeats Lacey Clay in the Democratic primary. The Clay family has represented the district for 50 plus years. It's kind of, oh God, great. Anyway, so she will be the Democratic nominee. Someone says this is a huge deal in St. Louis politics. Cori Bush, once homeless with 2 kids, ousts 20-year incumbent William Lacey Clay. So that's big news. That's popped up here. Other things, residents of Beirut wake destroyed buildings and street buried in rubble after a massive blast. I'm sure you've all seen video of that. This was nuts, man. Looks like they haven't added anything to it. A huge explosion shook the Lebanese capital on Tuesday, causing wide-scale destruction across the city. The Lebanese Red Cross says more than 100 people have died and thousands are injured. Lebanese Prime Minister Hassan Diab cited ammonium nitrate stored in a building as the likely cause of the explosion. Now, one thing that I'm sorry, I didn't put this on the screen. One thing that was crazy about this, now this is just live footage of them still, where rescue efforts are going on. So this morning I'm listening to the news on my break at work. And the Lebanese, was it Prime Minister? This is funny. So there was 2,700 tons of explosive material in this building, right? And the sentence that came out of the newsreader's mouth was this: the Prime Minister was criticizing the owners of the building for storing 2,700 tons of explosive material in their building in an unsafe manner. Was it unsafe? I can't remember the exact words. I'm thinking, oh, so it would have been okay if they had done it in a safe, like an OSHA responsible manner. I just like, why the fuck did they have 2,700 tons of explosive material in their building? Anyway, so that's big news today, is the issues in Beirut. Feel bad for the people. Oprah's trending today too because of her comments on what did she say? Something about white privilege. Oh my God, did she say some stupid shit? I had an article about it. Oprah Winfrey says being white gives you an advantage no matter what. Oprah was born dirt poor, raped as a child, worked hard, became an American icon worth billions of dollars. Why is victimhood and inferiority complex her message to Black Americans? I don't know. I want to get the exact quote, though, that they said. Oh, yeah, she says, whiteness still gives you an advantage no matter. Really? Because I just gave $20 to a homeless guy who was panhandling on the side of the freeway the other day, or the freeway exit. And I didn't feel like he had an advantage over me, so I told him, hey, here, man, go get yourself some lunch. And I gave him $20. Which is, I rarely do that, too. I don't know why I did it in this case. I've done it a couple times lately, maybe just because of the COVID thing. It's, some people are hurting. So we've been super generous in how we tip servers in restaurants. We've been super generous as far as other things. And so that's what I do with the money you give me. I sometimes give it away to people who need it more than me. Simeus of Thebes, what is happening? Nice to see you back. Also, Keeverdam, hello. Mike Savage, Blarg, how you doing? And Aaron Meredith, how you doing? That's I think you're back. Nice to see you. There's a similar explosion in Texas back in the 40s, killed over 500 people. Yeah, was the one in Texas? Was that like a fertilizer plant or something? I don't think it was explicitly explosives. It was just like a fertilizer plant or a silo something. I can't remember. I've heard of a lot of those situations, and that's what they're using in Lebanon. It was ammonium nitrate, but they think they were using it to make different types of bombs. Okay, real quick, let's see if there's any more breaking news. Oprah Winfrey, good God. Iowa's turning don't care. UConn becomes the first major college football program to cancel its upcoming season. UConn out of the Big East. I don't know if they play Big East football. I don't think the Big East has a football league, but they play in different football leagues. Well, UConn has decided to thwart their upcoming season. Rashida Tlaib wins her primary. I know she had I think she had someone challenging her. Oh my gosh, fact checker. Okay, it took fact checkers to conclude this. This is great. Fact checkers conclude Beirut explosion was not nuclear blast, and Lebanon cites ammonium nitrate stored in a warehouse as the cause. Citing experts, fact checkers at Vice and... Okay, wait a minute. Okay, besides the fact that CNN sucks is an oxymoron. Or no, I'm sorry, it's redundant. CNN sucks is redundant. Fact checkers at Vice is an oxymoron. Anyway, fact checkers at Vice and Lead Stories have concluded that the explosion in Beirut was not a nuclear blast. The Lebanese prime minister says ammonium nitrate was the likely cause after 2,750 tons was left unsecured for 6 years in a warehouse. Wow, that's a lot. The explosion in Beirut was not a nuclear blast. Lead Stories and Vice concluded that based on information released by the Lebanese officials, the explosion was likely caused by ammonium nitrate stored in a building. Lebanese prime minister cited, it says the same damn thing. It's the exact same thing there. Anyway, Yeah, it clearly was not a nuclear blast. If it was a nuclear blast, there's a video of a guy looking at the fires from an apartment or something, maybe a mile away, maybe not even that far. And then that blast happens and you see the buildings just crumble. Okay. But had it been a nuclear blast, it would have made a much larger impact across that area. The Texas blast was a fertilizer factory. That's what I thought. I thought it was something like that. Any other breaking news today? Oh, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively deeply regret their plantation wedding. Oh my God. Now, look, let's just click this. In a new interview with Fast Company, Ryan Reynolds says getting married on an antebellum era plantation is something we'll always be deeply and unreservedly sorry for. The actor reveals he and Blake Lively got married again at home years after. Why? Why? Did they... Ryan calls the decision a giant fucking mistake. Okay, this is how we're going to finish this day, because this is fucking stupid. Unless, of course, they... Unless they did... maybe had people out there in blackface and had simulated slaves and people with whips at the plantation. Who gives a fuck? It's a place to get married. It's a beautiful place. This is so stupid. Ryan Reynolds isn't just a beloved Canadian actor. Oh, he's beloved. With a penchant for humor of the quick wit and sarcastic variety, he's also been named one of Fast Company's most creative people in business for 2020. The man can act and sell gin, it would seem, to the chagrin of Hugh Jackman's coffee company, we imagine. But all the jokes aside, he isn't afraid to participate in the tough conversations around racial equality that are rightly taking over the zeitgeist in 2020. A point which became abundantly clear when he sat down with Fast Company to talk about Deadpool, marketing, diversity, and notably, he and Blake Lively's regret over their plantation wedding. Good God. For those who need a refresher, Reynolds and Lively tied the knot in 2012 at Boone Hall, an antebellum era plantation in South Carolina, which describes itself as one of America's oldest working plantations. You know what? Can I just give you a little hint about something here? Plantations in and of themselves are not racist. They're just big old farms with a different name and big old houses. It's not the plantation that was the problem. Well, that came at a weird time. It's not the plantation that's the problem. Holy shit. Later in 2018, Reynolds came under fire on Twitter after praising the movie Black Panther. I know, because you can't praise Black Panther. The post, which quickly went viral, had fans pointing out the actor's perceived hypocrisy as well as lack of judgment in selection of their wedding venue. Why? Holy fuck, why? A working plantation is just a farm. It's not the plantation that's a problem. Mike, I read this fucking fragile that the word or thought of a plantation. Fine. Let's just change the name to Boone Hall, an antebellum era plantation, an antebellum era farm. Whose birthday is it? Someone's got a birthday going on? Who's got a birthday? Is it Katie? Is it your birthday? Let me know in the chat. Ah, that's a good birthday, buddy. Check your logic. Or I'm not sure. Well, I'll find. Is it somebody's birthday today? That's pretty cool. No. Yeah, it's a farm. Hey, Larry, it's a fucking farm! Holy shit. Speaking with Fast Company, Reynolds addressed the controversy head on. It's something we'll always be deeply and unreservedly sorry for. It's impossible to reconcile, he said. What we saw at the time was a wedding venue on Pinterest. What we saw after was a place built upon devastating tragedy. Were there slaves on the farm? Did you have to step over the someone picking cotton while you were having your wedding? What the fuck are you talking about? I don't care. How are you hurting black people by having your wedding at a beautiful building? It's a building with some fucking agriculture going on outside. Holy shit. Oh, you're talking about shared birthday dates. Okay. So no, it's not. It's no one's birthday today. Okay. Because I will sing happy birthday. Check Your Logic. It's Check Your Logic's fault that I will be singing on birthdays now. So it's fine to let me know. Oh my God. Reynolds continued on to explain that years later, he and Lively got married again at home, but it didn't excuse or dismiss their past complicity. Complicity in what? You're not complicit in anything other than having your freaking wedding in a building. What do you want us to do? Okay, so look, so it's a working plantation. It's a farm that existed more than 100 years ago. But are there any slaves on it? Oh, I get it. What's this place called? It's called what? Boone Hall. Did Boone Hall, is it kind of like in Texas where they didn't find out that the slaves had been freed? And did they, after the Union soldiers came in 1865 and finally told them, hey, the Emancipation Proclamation happened a while ago. You're free. Did they not tell the people at Boone Hall that the slaves were free? Were there still slaves working on the plantation? If not, then it doesn't freaking matter that you had your wedding there. There's nothing wrong with it. Oh my God. This is news. It didn't excuse or dismiss their past complicity. Shame works in weird ways. A giant fucking mistake like that can either cause you to shut down or it can reframe things and move you into action. It doesn't mean that you won't fuck up again, but repatterning and challenging lifelong social conditioning is a job that doesn't end. You had your wedding on a fucking farm. Reynolds and Lively have been vocal throughout the Black Lives Matter movement, each taking their respective and social media platforms to support the cause. They've also acknowledged the shame they feel for, in the past, allowing themselves to be uninformed about how deeply rooted systemic racism is. You had a fucking wedding. You idiot. Blake Lively tweeted, "We never had to worry about preparing our kids for different rules of law or what might happen if we are pulled over in the car. We don't know what it's like to experience that life day in and day out." Miss Lively, as a black man, I could tell you, I don't experience that day in and day out. We can't imagine feeling that kind of fear and anger. I don't feel fear and anger, Miss Lively. We're ashamed that in the past we allowed ourselves to be uninformed about how deeply rooted systemic racism is. Last year, each couple donated $1 million to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Oh, they paid their penances. They paid their way out of the controversy. In late May, Reynolds and Lively contributed once again, this time donating $200,000 to the Legal Defense Fund of the NAACP. In the interview, Reynolds also spoke candidly about the need for diversity in Hollywood, explaining that the representation and diversity need to be completely immersive. Continuing on, he noted, it needs to be embedded at the root of storytelling, and that's in both marketing and Hollywood. When you add perspective and insight that isn't your own, you grow, and your company too. This inspired the Deadpool actor to create the Group Effort Initiative, which aims to bring people of color and other marginalized or otherwise unrepresented groups to work alongside experienced professionals in his next movie. You know what, motherfucker? You know how many black people are out in Hollywood already? How do you know people of color and marginalized, otherwise underrepresented? Guess what? Why would you need? How do you know they're not experienced professionals in the industry? In a video shared to social media, Reynolds explained that the film industry has systemically excluded Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC, and a whole host of other marginalized communities far too long. Exclude Black people? Exclude? Are you sure that's the term you want to make? Have you watched any movies lately, Ryan Reynolds, or other than Black Panther, which just thrilled you, right? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, good Lord. Anyway, I would say that I can't take it. I'm done. You know what? I look. I get you trying to be a good boy, Ryan. I know you're trying to be a good boy, right? And this is some condescending bullshit, if you ask me. Yes, people in Hollywood, there should be Black people in Hollywood. There are Black people in Hollywood. And there's Hispanics in Hollywood. And there have been ever since I've been alive. And, you know, if you watch TV right now, half the shit you see on TV has Black people in it, and gay people, and Hispanic people, because it's all about diversity right now. And in fact, if you go on Netflix right now, there's a whole section promoting nothing but Black people in movies. So, Ryan, I get you're trying to be a good guy, and I'm sure you are. I know you mean well, but I'm tired of the white savior complex, okay? How about you let us just deal with this and figure out how we're going to get more people into professions that maybe they never thought they could have an opportunity before, even though they probably do if they just pursued it with the vigor that some people pursue other options with. Okay? How about that, Ryan Reynolds? That's my rant for the day. Thank you, people, thank you and good night. I do got to go, though, folks. Ryan Reynolds just pissed me off to no end, and it's just one of these things that I get tired of seeing. Fucking Plantation. Are you kidding me? Plantation. Oh, Renton. Who is Renton and Claire Finn? Who's just, someone's just like, who is this person? With 73,000 followers. It's just, thank you, whoever Renton Claire Flynn is. If you're in the chat, you're just retweeting a whole bunch of my shows, and I really appreciate it. Someone with 72,000 followers is sending this out. Oh, that's awesome. Someone Renton MAGA UK. I greatly appreciate it. Maybe I'll get a few subscribers out of it. Anyway, I gotta go though, folks. Thank you for being here today on the Morning Night Live. You know that I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 1500 GMT for those people watching in other parts of the world, which I have quite a few international followers. I appreciate you greatly. If you haven't done so already, this is your chance before we go, before you step away, just because I'm doing the end of the show. Remember, there's a little button down there that's like the little thumbs up. Click that thing there, because that always helps the algorithm, especially as we get closer to 1,000 subscribers. And please share the stream. Either the Arrow or on Twitter, Minds Gabbed, or Parler. And if you want to make a more substantial contribution to the show, you can do that via donation in the Streamlabs link at PDawgnight.live right down here. It's always in the chat. It's always in the description. You can find it if you are able. That's great. Thank you so much to Kingslayer Damocles, Dixon Cider, and Jaeger Pony for the generous super chats today. I greatly appreciate that. And also thanks to everyone who's been playing along in the chat, or if you're lurking, or if you're watching the replay. Throw a comment in the comment section. Anyway, that's it for today, people. I really do got to go because I have some place to be. My name is PDawg Knight, and I am out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is PDawg Knight, and thank you for watching today on the PDawg Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawg Knight, and I'm out of here.